Once upon a time, in ancient China, there was a young merchant named Chen who believed that success came only through relentless effort and control. He believed that the harder he worked and the more he forced outcomes, the more productive and successful he would become. However, his constant pushing and forcing led to burnout, frustration, and diminishing returns. Looking at his exhausted state and failing business relationships, Chen realized that his aggressive approach had actually repelled opportunities and drained his energy. The young merchant in the story believed that productivity meant forcing every moment to be useful. However, his approach actually made him less effective because he ignored natural rhythms, fought against circumstances, and exhausted his mental resources, and wasn't prepared for the fact that forcing creates resistance. Also, he discovered that his need to control every outcome created anxiety and blocked creative solutions. In this way, his forceful productivity made him rigid and ineffective. Here we see how our obsession with forced productivity often backfires. We never know when our best ideas will come or when opportunities will arise. No matter how much we try to control our schedules, there's always the natural flow of energy and circumstances. Moreover, by trying to maximize every minute, we could actually miss the moments that matter most. The problem with forced productivity shows that the more we push against natural rhythms, the more we drain our authentic power. And so, as a result of our tendency to force outcomes, we may actually prevent the effortless achievements that could unfold naturally. As strange as this sounds, this principle highlights the power of Wu Wei and reminds us that true productivity flows like water. This video explores the ancient Chinese understanding of effortless productivity. In a display of wisdom that would influence centuries of Eastern philosophy, the legendary Lao Tzu developed the principle of Wu Wei, the effortless action. Unlike modern people who equate busyness with productivity, Lao Tzu understood that the most powerful actions arise from alignment with natural flow. The ancient Taoist sages, despite living in complex political times, deeply understood that forced effort creates resistance, while natural action creates momentum. They realized that there is a difference between lazy inaction and skillful non-forcing. For a significant part, what people think they need, constant activity and control, is nothing but an illusion of productivity. Many people tend to believe that working harder always yields better results. We might think that scheduling every minute will maximize our output, but we'll sooner or later discover that this approach leads to decision fatigue and creative blocks, as our minds need space to process and integrate. Likewise, we might believe that pushing through resistance always shows dedication, but our experience shows us that working with natural energy cycles produces better results with less effort. The story of Lao Tzu's approach serves as a reminder that true power comes from alignment, not force. It teaches us that effortless action is not about doing nothing, but about doing the right thing at the right time. When talking about productivity, we cannot ignore the profound Taoist teaching known as Wu Wei, effortless action, or non-forcing, as written in the Tao Te Ching. The sage does not attempt anything very big and thus achieves greatness. Even though this approach might seem counterintuitive to people who worship busy schedules and constant hustle, it forms the foundation of how ancient Chinese philosophers approached effectiveness. The sages maintained a clear understanding of the difference between forced effort and natural action. By aligning with the flow of circumstances and energy, they developed sustainable productivity. If Lao Tzu had witnessed someone checking emails every 5 minutes, multitasking frantically, and working through exhaustion, he would probably have called them a fool who misunderstood the nature of effective action. Such a person would scatter their energy, make more mistakes due to fatigue, and miss opportunities that require presence and clarity, only to discover that their busyness created an illusion of progress while producing mediocre results. So, the more they forced and rushed, the more they would create friction and resistance. What an exhausting and counterproductive cycle that would be. The story of Chen and the Taoist principle of Wu Wei remind us that true productivity comes from working with life's natural rhythms. By practicing effortless action, we can achieve more while experiencing less stress. Many centuries ago, there was a Taoist farmer whose prize horse ran away, and so his neighbor said, "What terrible luck." But with ancient wisdom in mind, the farmer responded by saying, "The Tao flows in mysterious ways." The next day, the horse returned with 3 wild horses. So his neighbors exclaimed, "What wonderful fortune!" Again, the farmer said, "The Tao flows in mysterious ways." Later, his son tried to tame one of the wild horses and broke his leg, and his neighbors lamented, "What a disaster!" Once more, the farmer said, "The Tao flows in mysterious ways." Then, military officers came to draft young men for war, but they passed over his son because of the broken leg. His neighbors celebrated his son's safety, but his response remained the same. The Tao flows in mysterious ways. The story shows how our assumptions about productive and unproductive time often have unexpected results. Our rush to label experiences as good or bad may actually blind us to hidden opportunities, while our acceptance of natural rhythms may reveal unexpected benefits. The story encourages us to question our assumptions about what makes a day productive. It shows us that the importance we place on controlling outcomes may actually work against the natural intelligence of life's unfolding. Another example. Suppose someone has an overwhelming to-do list and a packed schedule. They could force themselves to power through every task, checking boxes and staying busy. However, they could also choose to step back, prioritize naturally, and work with their energy rhythms. Now they realize that some tasks solve themselves when left alone, while others become easier when approached with fresh energy. Moreover, unexpected solutions and opportunities arise when we're not forcing every moment. So, what we think is productive, busy work may actually be energy-draining distraction. And what we believe is wasted quiet time may actually be essential processing time. There's no way of knowing which moments will spark our best insights, as creativity and breakthrough solutions often emerge in unexpected ways. This insight may seem impractical. Should we abandon all planning and structure? We should maintain organization while staying flexible. But the positive side of Wu Wei is that we can accomplish more with less effort, and we can remain open to opportunities that rigid scheduling might miss. So, what is effortless productivity? How does it work? And what can we do about it? Wu Wei centers on the principle that when we force outcomes and fight against natural rhythms, we essentially create resistance that drains our energy and blocks creative solutions. Like water flowing around rocks, effective action moves with circumstances rather than against them. In other words, we work with our natural energy cycles and the flow of situations. When we feel energized and focused, we tackle demanding tasks. If we approach challenges with curiosity rather than force, we find creative solutions. But if we push through exhaustion and fight against circumstances, we create friction and diminish our effectiveness. So, our willingness to flow with natural rhythms determines our sustainable productivity. An example of this is approaching a challenging project. Someone could force themselves to work on it when exhausted, fighting through mental fog and frustration. Or they could wait for natural energy and inspiration, then work with focused intensity. They'll have completely different experiences and results depending on whether they force the process or flow with their natural rhythms. According to the Taoist principle of Wu Wei, when we constantly push against our energy cycles, which includes working when depleted, forcing creativity, and ignoring intuitive timing, we're swimming against the current. We'll experience more stress, make more mistakes, and miss elegant solutions. Yet, many people believe that consistent grinding shows dedication, not realizing that sustainable effectiveness requires strategic rest and natural timing. So, their forced productivity actually burns them out and reduces their long-term output. The great sage Lao Tzu once stated, "Nothing in the world is softer than water, yet nothing is better at overcoming the hard and strong." Water demonstrates perfect Wu Wei. It's persistent yet flexible, powerful yet yielding. So, could it be that our need to force productivity comes from fear of being seen as lazy or unsuccessful? And if so, what are we really trying to achieve? Genuine effectiveness or the appearance of busyness? Is it because we fear that without constant effort, we'll fall behind? And if that's the case, what can we do about it? Our productivity anxiety does seem to come from cultural programming that equates worth with constant output. We mistake motion for progress and busyness for effectiveness. As a result, we force ourselves into unsustainable patterns, holding on to the illusion that more effort always equals better results. But in doing so, we often miss the fact that our best work emerges from a place of natural flow and genuine inspiration. As the ancient Chinese understood, the sage is guided by what he feels and not by what he sees. True productivity follows internal wisdom rather than external pressure. Embracing the principle of Wu Wei instead of forced productivity can help us achieve more while experiencing greater ease. When we align with natural rhythms and work with circumstances rather than against them, we can access sustainable effectiveness. As Lao Tzu wrote, "By letting go, it all gets done. The world is won by those who let it go." But we must be willing to trust the process and release our need to control every outcome. So, by recognizing our natural energy patterns, we can schedule demanding work during peak hours. By learning to flow with circumstances, we can find creative solutions and unexpected opportunities. Rather than forcing every moment to be productive, we can honor the rhythm of effort and rest. This requires developing trust in natural timing and confidence in our authentic capabilities. As the masters of Wu Wei understood, the Tao does nothing, yet nothing is left undone. Our greatest productivity comes not from forced effort, but from aligned action. Thank you for watching.